with the Potomac Bead Company, and today I am going to show you how to do a lovely design called Flowering Aztec. And this is a design that's one of our 2016 Potomac Bead Company Challenge winners. This is Rene Wilson's design. She had a lovely bracelet as well as a pair of earrings. I'll kind of discuss how to make both the bracelet and the earrings with you as we continue to make this design. For the design, you are going to need some DiscDuo beads. They are our 2-hole disc-shaped bead, and you're going to need 5 of those. If you need materials like this or any of the others in the video, we'll do a little drop down here on the left-hand side to link to these different products. So you can see here the DiscDuos are featured right in the middle of the design, and I'm using the white champagne luster, which is almost a taupey color, same color as your middle of your bead on it board, which I'm working on. You do need 5 to do the bracelet, 6 if you have a larger wrist, and you're also going to be using some RounDuo beads as spacers. If you don't have the RounDuos, but you do have the DiscDuos, you could also use the DiscDuos in between to connect the little components. For the RounDuos, we are going to be using 6 of those RounDuos. Again, a little bit bigger wrist. You may need to add 1 on the end or 2 on the end. And I'm using them in the opaque red Picasso color. So it has kind of that nice little shimmer and shine to it. In addition to my RounDuos and my DiscDuos, Rene also used MiniDuos in her design here. I'm using 2 different colors. I have that jet bronze color, that dark brown of the MiniDuos, and then as well that opaque red shimmer to kind of bring out that nice vibrant red color. I'm also going to be using Potomac crystals, and these are 2x3mm rondelles in that bronze color, and they add just a kind of a nice pop along the side of the project. 1 tube will do that because you're only really using 4 per component. Again, there's 5 components, so you only need 20 of those beads. And I'm sorry, they come on a strand actually that size, so you'll just use 1 strand of those beads. Pick a nice color because they are beautiful and you will use them in a different project. I should have mentioned also that each component, depending on how many you have to make, and again for a standard size wrist, about 5 components, you're going to be using 8 of one color, and this was my red shimmer there. I used 8 of my MiniDuos in the red shimmer color, and then 6 in the bronze color. To pull the colors together a little bit more, I am using 2 different colors of Miyuki 11O seed beads. I have the Galvanized dark gold, and they kind of brighten it all up and bring that kind of sun aspect into it. And then I'm also highlighting the red color by using one of the new Duracoat Opaque Current, and that's that nice bright red as well. Holding the whole bead and thread together is some gray wildfire beading thread in 0.006. And I like the gray color because it really kind of disappears in between the beads. I also have a bead on it board that I'm working on, a bead mat, bead on it board works, and we're going to be using a size 10 beading needle. I prefer the Pony brand needle, but you can use whichever kind you want. You can use a size 10 or a size 12 to complete this bracelet. The bracelet, again, right there at the cup button too, I should have mentioned you need 1 more crystal if you want to do the zinc iris cup button. I did do 1 more of my crystals there on the button as well, so 21 if you want to do the same, just to let you know. I have always sitting handy next to me a pliers to flatten out the edge of my thread after I use my thread burner to get it off of my roll of my thread. If you like to use glue, I would recommend Super New glue. That's what I use for gluing the thread ends together as you knot or as you end your little components. You can also choose not to do the glue after your knots. That is up to you whether you like to glue or don't like to glue. The design here, like I said, is a bracelet, but the awesome thing with it is that you can really make it into a necklace as well. You can decide that you want to do more pieces. I think it would be beautiful as a necklace, or you can do just single pieces as earrings as well. So to get started for the Flowering Aztec bracelet, you are going to need all your components out right away. So go ahead and make little piles, and you'll cut about 5 feet of beading thread and put that onto your needle. and then we'll get ready with that 5 feet to be able to make a couple different components. So to get started with our flowering Aztecs, we're actually going to be starting in the middle with our DiscDuo to create our first little piece here. And what we're going to do is you have your long piece of thread here on a size 10 needle along with an 11/0 seed bead. That seed bead is just going to act as a bead stop so the beads don't actually fall off. I'm going to go through one hole of the DiscDuo in that champagne color and let that fall down near that stop bead. On the side of the DiscDuo, we are going to add 4 of our MiniDuos. I'm using that red with that bronze coating, and I'm going to go back through the DiscDuo starting from this end of the stop bead and going out towards the long piece of thread. That's going to pop those DiscDuos right there on the side. So I have 4 laying right on the side there. Next, what I'm going to do is add some seed beads along the top. We're going to be using 3 of our 11/0s, and I'm using that galvanized dark gold color. Go from one hole of the DiscDuo that you're coming out of down the second hole of the DiscDuo, and that puts those 3 beads on the side. Now that the thread is coming out on the opposite side of the stop bead on the second hole of the DiscDuo, we're going to add 4 more of our MiniDuos, letting them drop down, and then going back into the DiscDuo from the top, sewing down towards the bottom towards that stop bead. That's going to put kind of that second little side of our sun on here. I'm just going to pull my thread. Once I have my needle coming out the end near the stop bead, on goes 3 more of my 11/0s and up the opposite side of the DiscDuo. What that's going to do is decorate the whole exterior of the DiscDuo. I'll remove that stop bead out of there, that tail, and give it a nice tight pull. So you can see here that kind of Aztec sun look. That's how Rene got the name, with that DiscDuo and the Super Duos on the side here. And what we're going to be doing then is kind of linking this all together. To step up and to do my next exterior row, I'm going from the bottom hole of that, I'm going to go through the 3 11/0 seed beads here on the side, and I'm going to go through that whole interior line of my beads, going through all the seed beads and all the MiniDuos, and what that's going to do is pull those beads in right along next to the DiscDuo and make that more of a continuous line, so that way there's not any peaks in the seed beads. It also is going to tighten up that center row. So into these other ones here. And when I'm coming out my last MiniDuo, again I'm just sewing right along that first line. When I'm coming up my last MiniDuo, I'm going to actually create that step up by going from the bottom hole of that MiniDuo to the top hole of that same MiniDuo. That's going to expose a little bit of my gray thread on the side of the MiniDuo, but you won't see it once you get the other seed beads in place. Give it a nice tight pull to tighten up any thread that kind of may be exposed along the edges there. And now we get to add in our second MiniDuo color. I have 1 on here. So I pick up a MiniDuo and I'm going to sew through the second hole of the next red MiniDuo. Another dark brown goes on, sew through the second hole of the next mini. My third dark brown goes on, and I sew through the last hole. So what I'm going to be doing is adding 3 MiniDuos at that point. To add my MiniDuos then, and to kind of create my edges and my sides, when you're coming out of the last MiniDuo, we're going to add in some crystals on the side. I'm using my red seed beads now, putting 2 red seed beads and picking up one of those Potomac crystal rondelles and 2 more of the red 11/0s. So over across that row of 3 dark gold 11s and those beads are going to sit right on the side. Once you have those beads sitting right on the side, we're going to add in 3 more of our mini duos. And when we add in 3 more of those mini duos, it's going to complete our mini duos actually for this section. So one gets sewed on, another one, then we'll put our third in place. Once the third is in place there, I'm going to go along the side here, joining the sides from one place of seed beads to the other by adding again 2 of my red 11-0s, 1 of my bronze, that dark bronze gold crystal, 2 11-0s, and sewing from one of my red super duos over to the other red super duo and through the second hole of that red super duo. As I pull the thread then, you can see the sides are decorated, just on my example here, the sides are decorated with that seed bead in place. At this point, I'm going to sew through all of my super duos here right in the line. So I'm sewing through that first hole of the dark bronze, and the red, and the dark bronze, and the red, and the bronze, and the brown. I'm then going to step up, and I'm not pulling really, really tight because I don't want any curling action to go on. So I am pulling tension that you don't see thread, but I don't want anything to curl up. Rene didn't have anything on the sides of hers here. I'm just going to put 1 seed bead so I don't see a lot of thread, and add that as I step up to my second hole of that outer mini duo. I'm just going to put that 1 seed bead to kind of decorate the edge there. In between my outer edge of my mini duos, I'm going to put a gold seed bead, 1 of my crystal rondelles, and then a gold seed bead, and sew through the second hole of the next dark brown. Next again, gold, crystal, gold, and through that second hole. To mimic the opposite side here, when I'm coming out of that dark brown, I'm going to add the 11-0 on, and sew back through the baseline of the dark bronze, as well as the second hole, or the dark brown, as well as the second hole of that red. Sewing right along them. I'm going to go through the seed beads and the crystal on the edge. And I'm just going the whole way along basically so we can get to the point that I'm coming out of one of the brown beads. So I'm sewing the whole way along the edge here to get to the outer side of one of my mini duos in order to add in my crystals between the second set here. So you can see I've just kind of been sewing right along the edge here, sewing in through that second hole of the red and the base hole of the dark brown. When I'm coming out of that, I'm going to add 1 of the gold 11 and step up from the bottom hole to the top hole of that mini duo. Coming out the mini duo then, on goes an 11, 1 of my crystals, and an 11 through the middle mini duo. On goes in another 11, crystal, 11, through the last side here of that mini duo. You can see that kind of decorates up that edge, which we're then going to use to attach our RounDuo bead. As I'm on the edge here, I want to attach a RounDuo bead so that way it sits right on the side to connect my next of my flowering Aztec here pieces. To do that, I want to get back to the middle, so I'm going to go through the side of the dark brown mini duo to add that 11-0 on the side, sewing through the red, sewing the whole way over across, and then back up through the seed beads on the side here. You can see I'm spinning the project. back up through the side, and I'm going to exit after one of my crystals. So I went through the 11-0 on this side of the MiniDuo, the MiniDuo itself, the 11-0, and then through one of those crystals at the top. When I'm there at the top, on goes an 11-0 seed bead. I'm going to use the gold color, one of my RounDuo beads, and another 11-0 seed bead. Come down through the crystal on the opposite side. I'm going to come out the whole way down out one of my MiniDuos. So that's going to be our link that as we do the next of our flowering pieces here, we'll link that in on the side to our next little component. To get rid of my thread end here, and actually just to get my RounDuo on this side, I can either add it in now or I can add it in as I do the clasp. You can continue to go straight or go back to the opposite way. I have a lot of thread on my needle, so what I'm going to do is, which is good because I want to be able to make a whole nother component, I'm going to sew my thread back along the baseline so that way I can tie off my thread end with my stop bead here. Take off the stop bead and knot the two thread ends together. We'll then start our second component and link it into our RounDuo that's already here, as well as then adding another RounDuo so you can see the progression of the bracelet and how the different components are getting added together. Before I finish this one, I was going to knot it off, but I've decided just to put in my RounDuo already on this side as well, so that way I can link into either side. To do that, I'm right at the position where the thread's coming out right near the beginning knot, and I'll get back to there so that way I can tie off the thread. But I'm going to snake my way through the MiniDuos. And a lot of the time that you're using these 2-hole beads and you have to progress from one to the other, the key is that you don't want to see any of the thread that between the beads. So I'm just kind of snaking back right along the line. So that way I can get back so I'm coming out one of the crystals, and I can add another one of my RounDuo beads. So now as I get to the end here, I'm just going to come out the side, just like we did when we added the previous RounDuo. And I should also mention that Rene did a nice pair of earrings, so this pattern could easily be adapted because it is component based to a pair of earrings. Once I am out one of the edge crystals here, I'm going to simply repeat the RounDuo on this side, adding in a seed bead, one of my RounDuos, and a seed bead. Oops, wrong color seed bead. Using the gold there next to the RounDuos, and then down the crystal on the other side. Now what I'll do is I'll work my way back through the project in order to knot off my thread ends right next to the start bead. So I'm going right along the edge, again hiding that thread, going back in towards the baseline. Every time I do this, now again starting out with the middle, I'm going to be adding on to the previous little section here. So Rene had 5 of our links that we're doing, so this is our first little component or our little link, and we'll have 4 more to add in. From now on, you're only going to be adding 1 RounDuo bead because you're going to be linking in to the second hole of the RounDuo that's already there. I'm just showing you as I do this here how I'm getting my thread and needle back to the starting position, kind of zigzagging through some of these MiniDuos. It's getting a little tight through some of them. If you wanted to, you could use a size 12 needle, going through those as well. If you happen to be using Toho seed beads, you're going to have no trouble getting through there since those have a little bit more of a larger opening. I'm just going to come in right there next to the other thread end. Get that thread out of the way here. Take those 2 thread ends after you get the stop bead off. Sometimes you can pull the stop bead off nicely, and sometimes it gives you a little fight. But once you get it removed from there, you're going to take the 2 thread ends and simply tie a square knot. You're going to do right over left and then left over right, tying the 2 ends together. So I'm just going to tie those 2 ends together. And get that nice and tight. And I'm making sure that it's in between beads and almost to the back of the project, because I'll turn over and use the other side, making sure that every time I do one of these components, I'm knotting off to the same back side. So that way there's not really a front side and a back side to this bracelet, but there can be. I think this looks great just as is. I can see why Rene did earrings. Since it is the component based, I think they're pretty just as earrings. Once I have that knotted, I'm going to go ahead with my thread burner and kind of ball up the edges so that way the knots can't come out. And on to the next component piece. As I'm doing my second component and I'm coming around here after adding in my last seed bead, I actually decided that I'll go ahead and add my RounDuo before I take my thread back over to the opposite side. So just to show you here, and either way works, so this is just a little variation to show you. So I'm taking my thread and needle over to the side, and instead of going the whole way over to the MiniDuo there, the red one, I'm going to come back to the top section here, go back up the side right away, coming out the crystal, and then I'm going to add my next RounDuo bead, that opaque red Picasso, separated by 11 seed beads on the sides, and then I'm going down those seed beads, or the crystal on the opposite end. Once I'm down that crystal on the opposite end, I'm going to go through my MiniDuo, through the 11, and here's where I get to then, oops, I said through the red one too. Through the 11, and then back down and straight across to the opposite side. So I'm going through that second hole of the brown, or the first hole there of the brown, and the second hole here of the red, just to get my thread and needle to the opposite side of my component in order to add in my crystals on the opposite side and actually link in to my RounDuo on the opposite side. So again, kind of the key whenever you're using these 2-hole beads is to hide the thread. Going here to the outer edge, I'm going to exit out the very outer edge through that red bead, go along the lines of the side seed beads here, through the crystal, and then coming out the sides again. To add into the previous component, I'm sewing back through that line again of all of those super duos, so kind of like we did on the opposite side. I'm doing on this side as well till I'm exiting my dark brown one. And then once I'm exiting the dark brown, I continue on like I did previously, adding an 11 in my gold color. Once I have on the 11 in the gold, it's time to add the crystals. So I'll add an 11 crystal, and then 11 through my MiniDuo, 11 crystal, 11 through that MiniDuo. When I'm out the side of the MiniDuo there, I'm going to go ahead and add an 11 because that's going to decorate the side right as I did on the other edge. Come right back along that second line again, going through that second hole of the red beads, as well as the first hole of the minis, the whole way again till I'm on one of the side of the bronze, or coming out, I'm sorry, the dark brown. I'm going to go up through the 11 that I added as my little bead on the side, up through the second most exterior hole of the MiniDuo, up through the 11, and pop one out right there on the crystal. This is the fun part because you get to actually see your bracelet grow really quickly, adding in an 11-0, and then connecting to my RounDuo bead. Adding the 11, then I go through the RounDuo on the component that's already there, and I'm making sure that I'm facing up because I have the stop bead there to the top. I also have that knot that I burned out from the previous one also at the top, so that way the good side or the front side is to the back. I'm then going to go through after adding the 11, sewing into the RounDuo and adding another 11. I'm going to go through the crystal on the outer edge, through the seed bead, and that connects the two pieces together. Sewing down, then I'll sew down along the line till I can knot off the thread, and then simply add 3 more components, and then we'll add the clasp. Now that I have all 5 components added together and completed, which realizing this as I was working with it, it would be a really pretty necklace as well. And then we are going to, so now we are going to actually add our button. I'm doing that zinc iris color. It's kind of a fun little off color, but still within the color range. So I'm going to add a stop bead to a piece of thread and leave just a little bit of a tail so I can tie onto it. I'm going to go through one of the last RounDuo beads on the edge, and that stop bead's just going to hold the thread right there. Adding 3 of my gold seed beads, I'm going to come out through the center of my cup button there in that zinc color. I'm going to add one of my red seed beads, one of my bronze crystals, and another one of my red seed beads. Down the opposite side of the cup button, you can see then that gives that little pop of color then in the cup button. When I'm coming out the opposite side, I'm going to add 3 more 11-0 seed beads. So back through that red Picasso RounDuo, up through the gold seed beads, up through the middle of the cup button. And what I'm doing here is reinforcing that thread because you want to make sure whenever you're using a clasp to reinforce the edge, because that's going to be where you have the most tension on your project. Coming down the other side then, I'm going to come down those 3 seed beads there after the cup button, and I'm going to run my thread and needle through one more time. After I run it through that 3rd time, then I am going to just simply tie off my thread right around the side. If you were doing a regular clasp, I know Rene had used a gold clasp in hers. And if you're using a regular clasp, you would add your wire protectors and add your clasp just as is. Once I'm out the end here, I'm going to take my seed bead stopper off the end, and I'm simply going to tie a knot, tying these beads, tying these 2 thread ends together. If you want to, you could also decorate the sides of that last RounDuo and hide the knot a little bit further back. That's up to you. Especially with the Picasso beads, you're really not going to see the knot. So I have those knots there. If you want to, you can dab a drop of glue after you burn down the thread ends a little bit. Then I'm going to flip over to the other end and add my loop on the other end of my bracelet. The loop's going to be added in the same fashion, just instead of adding a cup button, I'm just going to add about 30 seed beads onto my needle. So same deal, go ahead and put a stop bead onto the end of your thread. And we're going to sew through that loop that we make 3 times, just like I did the opposite end. So we have our stop bead on here. Go through that RounDuo. On goes the seed beads. And just that whole line of them. all those seed beads too. You could use the red ones if you wanted to get a little bit more brightness into this project. I really like this design again as earrings also. So you could do the design with the earrings with the RounDuo there at the base, or just another crystal if you didn't want to do the RounDuo. You want to make sure you add enough seed beads so that way the loop is big enough for your cup button to go through. You want to make sure the cup button is a little bit thicker as far as on the side because we did add the crystal. So I want to make sure that I have enough. And then again, all you're going to do is sew back through that RounDuo bead just like that to make your loop and reinforce that 3 times, then tie off your thread ends and burn down the ends. If you want to, you can do a little dab of glue as well. Once you get your thread ends tied off, you have your lovely bracelet. And this is one of those that it looks really good on. It's hard to kind of see, but I think it actually looks better on the wrist than off the wrist. It has a really pretty kind of angular design to it, and it's really nice to make. Again, if you do need any of the materials for Rene Wilson's Flowering Aztec design, you can go back to the beginning of the video where we do the little drop down links, or you can go underneath the video here to the description and the show more, and you can get links to all of the different products that were used in the video. As always, it was really fun to make one of these design challenge winner designs. Thanks, Rene, for this great design. And also, if you want to stay more interactive with us, see other designs by Rene and other designers that have won, as well as get questions answered or opinions as far as colors or designs, you can always join our Facebook group, which is Beading and Jewelry Making, and ask to join that group and get some info from other designers and other beaders like you, whether or not it's wire working or seed beading or basic stringing. All kinds of different people are on that. You can also stay connected with us through our website, PotomacBeads.com, as well as our regular Facebook page. And if you want to, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel so you get regular updates on different designs like this Flowering Aztec and some of the other designs that we've done recently. You can also get regular product updates when we get new things like the chatons in, like this previous design here, and the bricks. So it's really fun to see all the different things that can be done. And if you do like some of the designs, you can get those regular updates as well and watch some of the other videos. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone, and have fun making this Flowering Aztec design by Rene Wilson.